2023 could have had half as many big releases and it still would have been a contender for one of the best years in gaming ever. And I played a lot of these games, but I didn't get a chance to play all of them, so what I thought we could do is go over some of the games that I loved that I did play and some of the games that I want to play that I didn't get a chance to. Sort of like a synopsis of just how big this year was in gaming. And the first game that I want to talk about on this list is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I've been excited for Jedi Survivor since I finished Jedi Fallen Order, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Respawn managed to make one of the more memorable Star Wars experiences that I've had in a very long time. And Respawn continues the story of Cal Kestis in a great way. It's just nice to have a set of characters that are mostly detached from the Skywalker saga while existing in one of the more interesting eras of Star Wars. And I am sure they're going to turn this series into a trilogy and they're going to wrap it up with a bow, and hopefully that third game is just as good, if not better, than Jedi Survivor. And just as soon as I started looking for a challenge out of the games from this year, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon was there to stare me down. It was just looking at me like, yeah, you want a challenge? Let's go. And while Armored Core 6 is indeed by the people who make Dark Souls, Armored Core is its own kind of difficult. And mind you, I didn't go into this series thinking it was going to be like another Dark Souls just with robots, but I knew there was going to be something to adjust to. I just wasn't sure what. And while this isn't a Souls-like at all, the gratification you get from defeating bosses in this game is the same as the one you get from the Dark Souls and the Elden Rings of the world, so the guts are still the same. Or I guess it would be the soul that's the same, but regardless, Armored Core 6 left a really nice dent in my gaming time this year. Now, one game that loomed over the others for me in 2023 was Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'm a huge fan of Breath of the Wild. I really loved that game when it came out. It just struck the right chords with me, and when I knew there was going to be a sequel to Breath of the Wild that was going to play similarly, I've been waiting for it ever since. And Tears of the Kingdom was exactly that. It was a sequel to Breath of the Wild, but man, did it do some things that nobody expected. You had the sky level, you had the underground level, you had the regular level with all the things that we knew. And on top of all that, we're now doing Legos in Zelda. And while I don't not love the story of Zelda, I don't play Zelda games for the story. You understand what I'm saying? I'm there for the dungeons, I'm there for the exploration, I'm there for the combat. The story's cool, but this one really did take me off guard. Rather than ignoring the main storyline and going to help a bird with his newspaper, I actually was invested in finding out what happened next in the story. Tears of the Kingdom took everything I enjoyed about Breath of the Wild and piled on top of it things that I just wasn't expecting, and the end result was a delight. And to be fair, Tears of the Kingdom would have had to do some seriously bad things for me not to enjoy it, but I really enjoyed it because it did so much more. So those are the games that I finished. Now let's talk about some games that I'm still playing. I have played these, but you know, I'm still working on them. And the first game I'm guilty of not finishing just yet is Marvel's Spider-Man 2. This is another example of a game that really would have had to go far for me not to enjoy it. I really liked the first game on PS4 and I loved the Miles Morales game as well. So not only was I excited about the gameplay, but I was excited about having both of the characters that I've been enjoying in one game together. And after a while, this started to seem like something that might be bloated. You know, they've got Venom in the trailer and now you've got two Spider-Mans, you play as both of them, and the end result of that actually wound up being a really buttoned up experience that feels like a joy to play. It should feel more overwhelming between all the options you've got when it comes to things to do in the city, the fact that both Spider-Men have their own spider suits to unlock as well as their own skill trees, and the side quests have their own branching paths of story, so there's a lot to do in this game, but it's somehow very digestible. It almost reads like a comic story. You know, they've got their little arcs and then things happen and then they take a little break and relax and do some side issues for a while. Another game that I am like smack in the middle of is Sea of Stars. Now this game I started on a flight. My thought was that I would get through about half of Sea of Stars while I was on this flight. It was an 8-hour flight and the game's supposed to be about 20 hours long. Math didn't really work out that well, but I am deep in the game and I'm loving it. It takes everything I love about JRPGs and the things that I don't aren't exactly present. And the combat is a lot more fun than I was anticipating. You've got to make really good strategies for fighting against enemies to make sure you're using the right moves at the right time. And so far, the story of the game has been really enjoyable. The presentation's nice, the pixel art and the music. Those are the things that keep me really invested in an RPG, and Sea of Stars has me invested. Not to mention this game looks really nice on my Nintendo Switch OLED. And of the games that I'm still working my way through, we've got Super Mario Bros. Wonder. How much do I have to say about Super Mario Bros. Wonder? It's been a pleasure to play with my partner Annie, and I'm quickly realizing that she has this whole history of playing Super Mario World, and she's really good at Mario games. And every level in Super Mario Wonder has been wonderful, for lack of better and less cliche phrasing. They didn't need to put a Wonder Flower on every single level. They didn't need to make every level have its own alternate mode, but they did. and I love that. And it's been an excellent co-op experience. I really like the other co-op Mario games, but this one hit the nail on the head. We're not running into each other, we're not throwing each other off the stage, although that was fun when it was possible. We're just able to work through these levels and find our way around, and it's been a blast. I'm sure she and I are gonna finish this game throughout the next few weeks. So of the popular games of 2023, those are the ones I've played. Now let's talk about the popular ones that I have not played. The games that simply got by me because I was either too busy or just not ready to play them when I was able to play them. Or these are games that I just decided to wait on because going from Armored Core 6 to Lies of P is not recommended. But the reason we have to talk about Lies of P is because it's doing some really cool things for the Souls community. From what I've been seeing, the developers have found a balance that ultimately feels like a genuine Souls-like. A game that can stand shoulder to shoulder with legendary games like Bloodborne. So I'm excited to find some time to play Lies of P. It's definitely on my list. I just, again, did not want to go from Armored Core 6 to Lies of P. It just didn't seem like the right move. Another game that was really popular this year that I will not be playing is Baldur's Gate 3. I understand that the story and the things you can do in Baldur's Gate 3 is immense and fun. I just know me, and I know that I'm gonna get a little upset by how much I have to watch people talk and also make decisions that don't result in immediate combat or action. But this is all because I have goopy gamer brain and not because Baldur's Gate 3 is a bad game. I am recognizing that it's a great game. My experience with it hasn't been by playing it, but instead by hearing what my friends have to say when they play it, or watching streamers. And all of the times that I see this game, it never looks the same. There's always the same characters, but the scenarios are always vastly different, and I think that's really fascinating. So I'm excited that Baldur's Gate 3 is bringing this Dungeons and Dragons-like experience to home consoles and PCs. And I've also been hearing my friends talk about multiplayer experiences that they've been having, so they're essentially having D&D nights around this game. Ultimately, the things that this game is doing for gaming and storytelling, I think it's really driving that point home that single-player games are important and they should be here to stay. So I might not play it, but I can respect what it's doing. I can respect that Baldur's Gate 3 is carving out that space for more single player games just like it. Maybe one of those will have something with some more real-time combat, and then you'd have my attention. Alan Wake 2 is not a game that I expected to be talking about this year in any aspect. I played through Control, and that game is perfect for my goopy gamer brain because it's very twitchy and fun. And then I played Alan Wake Remastered because at this point, anyone who's come to my stream has basically decided that we're gonna play Alan Wake 2. And one of the reasons I'm extremely excited about Alan Wake 2 is the fact that it's just this cult classic that's now standing on the center stage. That's a Cinderella story if I ever heard one. Something about a game that is clearly inspired by X-Files and other things like Twilight Zone having a spot in the gaming echelon, I think is very important because some of the best games out there are also some of the weirdest games, and Alan Wake strikes that balance perfectly. And if you want to watch me play Alan Wake 2, make sure you're watching the streams because we do those on Twitch and YouTube, just to, plug that for a second, because that is why I'm playing, because the stream wanted it and now we're doing it. And also, I do happen to be enjoying Alan Wake because I didn't expect to be enjoying Alan Wake, but now I am, and I'm extremely invested in seeing what happens next. Speaking of games that are compared to Resident Evil 4, you've got the Resident Evil 4 Remake, which came out this year. I didn't play this because I feel like I had such a good time with Resident Evil 4 that I knew I could just kind of wait on the remake. I loved Resident Evil 2's remake, I loved Resident Evil 3's remake, but I just wanted to give Resident Evil a rest. But I'm mystified because people are loving this game as much as they loved the original, which is sort of astonishing to me. Resident Evil 4 not only changed the series itself, but also gaming at the time. It sort of turned the action genre on its head, and to hear people loving this game just as much as they like the original is very huge. It sort of cements just how good Capcom is getting at these remakes, and I'm fine with that. Now, if they could just remake Code Veronica next, I'll be very happy, because Code Veronica is actually my favorite Resident Evil game. Probably because it was kind of weird, a little off the beaten path. It's on the Dreamcast, and if they can take all the good juice that they got from Resident Evil 4 Remake and put that on Code Veronica, I think everyone's gonna be like, whoa, it's the best game of all time. Where's Code Veronica been this whole time? Yeah, it's because it's one of the best ones, and we haven't had a chance to play it in modern gaming, and it deserves to be here. Let me take a second and step off of my soapbox for Resident Evil Code Veronica, and let's talk about Pikmin 4. I have not played Pikmin 4 at all. The farthest I got was setting up the game for Annie to play it, and suddenly she has become enthralled by Pikmin. Annie loves video games, but she doesn't really dig her heels into one that often. I think the last time she played one this much was Animal Crossing. And I think that's because this game has like the perfect blend of coziness and exploration and also a good challenge underneath all of that. So she played the game, she beat the game, she rolled the credits, she told me how much she enjoyed it, she asked me when Pikmin 5 was coming out, but then she goes back in the living room and wouldn't you know it, there's something to do in the post story, and Nintendo, oh, they've got their hooks in her now. So she's gonna love that post story and then just wait patiently for Pikmin 5. Although that's probably not gonna be releasing anytime soon. And those were just some of the most popular games from 2023. There are plenty of big indie games we didn't talk about. There are other AAA titles that we didn't even talk about. But I just needed to sit down for a second and think about all the games that I've gone through, as well as all the games that I plan on going through that all came from 2023. And I'm also excited to hear what you've played in 2023. Did you get through a lot of the games that we've talked about? Are there games that I didn't talk about? And also, how's your backlog doing? Thank you very much for watching my video, and next up we're probably going to talk about some of the games that you should look forward to in 2024, so make sure you subscribe for that. But ultimately, I'm just happy that you watched my video, and I will see you in the next one.